What up, Chicken Nuggets? Welcome to the Sports Cards Are Dope podcast. I'm your co-pilot on this magic carpet ride, Dr. Tyler Tarver. And I throw doctor in there not to be pretentious, a little pretentious, like 20% pretentious, 80%. It was expensive. I'm trying to get my money's worth. Today, I want to talk to you about the 4 tiers of collectibles and the Victor Wembanyama jersey swap. Fiasco? Debate? I guess debate. Not really debate because people can do what they want, I guess. Let's get into it and let's jump in like Michael Feld. First off, what's up, Chicken Nuggets? I say Chicken Nuggets. That's how we intro this. This is Sports Cards Are Dope. Today, we're talking about something, if you haven't heard of it, it's the Victor Wembanyama viral jersey swap. Has a second chapter we didn't know we didn't want. And that made me reflect on how in my brain, what does my Venn diagram of collectibles look like? And I decided to put in a tiered system. So I have 4 tiers I've broken up. And when it is faux pas to sell those tiers, keepable, sellable, and how that's viewed by the majority of the public. Okay. And so let's discuss this. And if you're on YouTube or Spotify, there's a place for comments. I would love your opinion on any of this. Throw it in there. You can comment before, after, whatevs. I try to build a community here of people talking about sports cards and collectibles. And let's first off lay out the story, okay? Before we do, though, I have a couple of questions. So what separates an untouchable collectible from something you can flip guilt-free? Flip. I don't know why I did that. Flip. Little flip on the scene, Freestyle King, brand new something. I haven't listened to that song in 20 years. Also, what are these 4 tiers that I keep referencing of autographed collectibles, and how can that help us navigate this drama? So let's start with the tiers, okay? And I'm going to lace in different personal experiences as we go, because that's how podcasts work, apparently. Number 1, first tier, tier 1 of collectibles, I call the untouchables. These are unique, personal, and irreplaceable items, okay? This Victor Wembanyama jersey swap, in my opinion, falls into a tier 1, okay? So if you don't know the story, Victor Wembanyama, promising second-year player in the NBA, he went to a game because he's paid to go to those games and play. You hear that, Kawhi? And he went up, and there was a kid, looked like around 4, if I'm guessing, that had a sign that said, "Victor, will you do a jersey swap with me?" And he had a black Spurs jersey, and Victor stopped, did a jersey swap, and it looks funny because the kid is like, Victor's 7'5", and this kid was practically 5 inches tall, and it's what it looked in comparison to Victor. And so, I think the contrast of their size, and Victor's holding up the little bitty jersey, and it's like literally not long enough for his shorts, and it was really cool, and it made it a cool moment, and it went viral, and I think a lot of us saw that, and it was a really cool moment. It became a story. It became this chapter in Victor's collectible, because like every big sale, the Superfractor or the Logo Man was just pulled. This jersey swap, it's just another layer on how we think of Victor because he took the time to do that, okay? That is a personal story for that kid that fell into there. It'd be like Luke Skywalker handing you his lightsaber. It's in saying this to Rey, "It's yours now." And then Rey was like, "Coolio." And then she goes and swaps it at the cantina for, I don't know, whatever those weird blue drinks are, okay? The blue milk. Has anybody had the blue milk at the Star Wars at Disney? Not gonna lie, not bad. 8 out of 10. Pretty delicious. But then also, if you go there in the summer, you're like sweating out blue milk, which is weird. I feel like I'm in an MJ Gatorade commercial, okay? If you're the person they gave it to you, that is yours forever, unless you have drastic circumstances, okay? So, for instance, if they have a medical, like an illness in their family they need to pay for, if they, let's say the wildfires in California, say they want to sell it and then donate that. I didn't even finish the story. I'm so sorry, you guys. That's where I could see it as an acceptable thing to do. To carry on their story, that jersey that he swapped with that kid, so I didn't even say like the whole point of this. Tyler, set up conflict resolution. I didn't name the conflicts. Point number 2, tell them a story, okay? That jersey just popped up on Golden to be sold. The people that had the jersey swap, and I'm guessing it wasn't the kid. I don't know if that kid reached out to Ken Golden and was like, "Hey man, I want to sell this jersey." The kid's parents sent it off for a jersey swap, okay? I want to go ahead and say, and I am assuming, and we all know what happens when you assume, my 8th grade career or 8th grade shop teacher who taught career orientation told us what assume means. That's fun. As an 8th grader, like, oh, cool. I'm gonna tell this to my parents. He probably got some calls. Whenever, whenever you assume, you can make a incorrect assumption person out of you and me. So I'm gonna go ahead and assume and step on a limb and say the family probably didn't need the money for the jersey. And here's why I'm assuming that. Because we have half-season tickets to the Grizzlies, and, you know, we get to go to the games, we have seats, it's in the lower bowl. And I know from personal experience the restrictions of getting out onto the court to get things signed or swapped or whatever with athletes. You do not get to walk out on the court if you don't have tickets that are courtside. That is how it is. I don't care. It just doesn't work that way. If you're in tier 1, tier 2, whatever, you're not getting out there. And even with having courtside seats, if you're on the 2nd or 3rd row, you very seldom get to walk around to the other side. You very seldom get to go and be like, hey, I'm going to walk around and ask him this, this, and this, which they may have held the sign up high enough for Victor to see. His eye line would have been perfect for that. But it looked like they were front row standing there, which you can't do that because security won't let you stand in front of people who paid the premium for front row seats. And you're like, well, what if front row seats cost at a Spurs game? Your boy did a little amateur research, looked it up. For the 4 or 5 games I looked at, one, there wasn't very many for sale. So I would actually assume that these people have season tickets to it, which is a whole new expense outside of itself. But let's say they just bought individual game tickets. That is, at minimum, $2,000 per person per seat. $2 to $7,000 is the minimum prices I could find of what was available. Okay, so you're looking at $4 to $14,000 is kind of our rough estimate of what they paid if it was just the parent and their kid. If you're dishing out $4 to $14,000 to go see a random Spurs game, you're probably not hurting for that money to go month to month, okay? You probably have a source of income where you can do that. Again, I am assuming all of this. I did not look into their family history. I'm just trying to mark that off of the potential reasons they did this. They probably didn't need the money. I've not heard where they're selling it or anything like that. If that's the case, sending it off to auction to make money off of it, in my opinion, is the incorrect thing to do. I'd love your thoughts in the comments if you're on YouTube, because I want to know if I'm alone. I think a lot of people did, because even Victor Wembanyama like retweeted this or re-X'd it or whatever and put like a crying face. I don't know if it's just crying or crying laughing, but it is. It shows like how little this means. And here's the deal. I know people who have courtside seats. They get stuff signed, like multiple items signed throughout the year. Every single game, they get stuff signed. And I know, because I've gotten a chance to see their collection, one of the issues they run into is they run out of room for these jerseys. They run out of room in their house on framing. I'm in a small office. I've got a Curry autographed jersey. I don't have room to put that on my wall. And I'm not taking down this JP, which I'm going to tell you the tier of this here in a minute. You run out of room. So I've noticed they've started getting shoes signed. Like they've got these little dolls that get signed, like Funko Pops, like bobbleheads. They're getting stuff signed that saves a lot more room than a jersey where you only have a certain amount of wall space. So maybe these people, they do so many jersey swaps and they get so many game use articles. This doesn't even rank in their top 10 to 20 of cool pieces. The difference is that picture took off and got viral. So now it's a story we are all invited into. I'll give you as a parent, as someone that has things, like I collect things, I have a lot of collectibles and cards, and I think of like the stuff that I want to keep forever because I like it, but then I think of passing it on to my kids. My kid, I'll give you an example. We went to a Wizards game, and it was Wizards and Grizzlies, and Finnick had a basketball that I purchased, and he got it signed by like 10 different players on the Wizards. After the game, I ask him, every time I have my kids sign something, I ask him, do you want to keep that, or do you want me to have that? And again, I would have kept it anyway because it was a cool experience. We got to meet Jordan Poole. Nicest guy we've ever met. Nicest NBA player we've ever met, by the way. And he said he wanted to keep it. I was like, dope. So he has that, and they had like a Wizards towel one of their people gave him after the game. I don't know who. I was like, this is kind of gross, but also kind of cool. So he has that, both of those on his shelf. Okay. That is a moment for him to remember that we had together. The parents of this kid, as a 4 or 5-year-old, they have taken that experience, that memory of that jersey swap away from their child. And again, that's Tyler's opinion as a parent. Again, they are the parents. They can do whatever they want. It is their jersey, their kid, whatevs. I personally would not take that moment and that decision away from my kid. Maybe their kid was like, oh, I don't care, whatever. Like, I have a buddy, one of my best friends in high school. His dad passed away when he was little. And his dad had like a really cool car. And I remember him telling us a story where his his mom was like, hey, your dad, I know he passed away. It was like a week or two after his dad passed away. And he was like, they were like, do you want to keep this car for when you're 16? It was like 10, 12, 10 or so years down the road. And my buddy, as like a 5, 6 year old, was like, no, I'm going to get a Lamborghini or whatever. So they sold the car. 10, 11 years later, like his brain has developed more. He understands the significance and how cool it would have been to have his dad's car as he turned 16. And now he was driving around like this used Ranger. And he was like, man, my biggest regret is that I didn't say, yes, I want to keep that. You're taking away that option from your kids for years down the road. And so that's not something I would have done. I would have left that. I'd have put it in his room. Like, unless, again, maybe they have so many used jerseys from doing this that it doesn't matter. And I feel like this falls into a tier 1 thing. Now, if that jersey swap happens, for me, Jordan Poole at the game, at the end of the game, or before the game, he was like, hey, where y'all sitting? I'm going to try to get y'all some stuff. But then he wasn't able to because I think there's some other people that wanted some stuff from him. And also I think he was hurt kind of at the game. So he didn't get the chance to come out. You never know the dynamic, but he didn't get to come out and give us that stuff. If he had given me a game used jersey after a game, if he hands that to me, I will never sell that. That is mine in my collection until I pass away. Once it passes on to someone else, if someone passes something on to you, that was no longer a direct link. And in my opinion, that falls into tier 2, which is a tier unto itself that I call the pro bono. The pro bono tier. Okay. Yes, things passed on from other people. It can be sold. It is less looked down upon. It was not given to you. It was not your story. It was a story handed down to you, whether you're their kid, cousin, or friend. It was passed on to you. This category I call the pro bono. And as you know, pro bono is like you donate your time. I consider items that are brought to games by fans and a player signs it when they do not have to sign it. These are items given as a meaningful gesture without that game used side of it. Does that make sense? So for instance, Titus and I went to a Grizzlies game and we went to the Grizzlies side to try to get stuff signed. And Jaren Jackson Jr., great player. Hopefully he gets all-star team this year. He plays for the Grizzlies. And he was walking around. He was signing random stuff. He wasn't working his way down the line, but he was signing random things. And he was about to turn around and run back in. This is pregame, about to run back in. And he saw that I had bought one of those Vancouver Grizzlies, $100 and something, the good version of one of those throwback jerseys. And it was his. It wasn't John Morant's. There's a lot of kids that hang out John Morant jerseys and try to get Santi Aldama to sign them. I'm hanging out his jersey. He about to turn around. He saw the jersey, stopped, turned around, and did a full-on Jaren Jackson Jr. signature up the side of the back. It was beautiful because usually he just does his 3 initials, JJJ. He did a full-on signature, handed it back to me. That is what I consider tier 2. It's not a game-used thing. It wasn't handed over because of he wanted to be a part of the story because he saw a sign or whatever. It was my jersey I brought, and he did not have to sign that. He took the time to sign that jersey for me. That is a donated time. He's paid to be at that event because he's paid to play, but he did not have to sign anything. He could have ran on by just like Desmond Bane did that game, just ran on by and didn't sign nothing. Okay. That is a tier 2 thing. I think it's more okay to sell that. I personally, for tier 2, where I am in my life right now, I don't need that extra money to live and feed my kids. I will keep those. I do not plan to sell my Jaren Jackson Jr. jersey at any point because that jersey means something because he signed it for me when he did not have to, okay? And I love relating to pop culture stuff. This is, to me, spoiler alert for Harry Potter. If you haven't read them all, skip forward 30 seconds. It's like Harry Potter. He has the Elder Wand, and that's dope, and he could wield this wand that is so incredible, but that's a tier 2 wand. He would rather fix his wand that chose him, that saved his tail so many times in the series. He'd rather fix that, use it, and not use the Elder Wand, okay? And depending if you're watching the movie or reading the book, what he does with it. But it's he would rather have that thing that was his, that tier 1 item that chose him at the beginning. It's like Shaq signing a pair of shoes that you bought of his versus giving you his shoes at the end of the game. That's the difference between tier 1 and tier 2. And that's where I kind of see a difference, personally. Now, this right here. So this is a combo of tier 1 and 2, but I think this still falls into tier 2. No. I'm going to use that jersey at the end. It's my favorite jersey I have in my whole collection. I'll do it at the end, okay? So the key here for tier 2 is they're not paid and they don't have to sign anything, but they choose to do it. And again, at most games that we go to, we get there early. We try to get stuff signed. About 40% of the players just walk on by. They don't sign anything. 60% will stop and sign. I keep their cards that they sign. They only sign like one card at most for me. If they sign a card, I plan on keeping all that stuff. Now, when I have 2 or 3 years worth of their signature, maybe I'll replace them, but I'm going to keep at least one to remember that moment and the time they donated. Now, let's talk tier 3, which I call the Mercenary. If you guys know Mercenary, they're people that are paid to go into battle for other people. These are items that are acquired in a structured paid interaction, but it's still done in person, okay? A couple years ago in 23, Titus and I went to the National, and we stood in a couple of the lines there. We had B.J. Armstrong of the Bulls sign some stuff. Bob Lilly from the Dallas Cowboys signed some stuff, and then Bob Love signed some things, okay? Bob Love, rest in peace. He was alive at the time. That would have been really weird signing, but he signed a couple things. We went through the line, and I had something signed, and Titus had something signed. So we had 2 things. And then with BJ and with Bob Love, we ended up having extra time, or the line got shorter. So we ended up going through another time. So we ended up like 3 or 4 things signed by him. I kept one of each of those. I kept a BJ Armstrong. It's like an atomic refractor from the 90s he signed. I was like, this looks dope. I kept it for me. And then for Bob Love, I kept one of his. I had 2 rookies he signed of his, the bigger ones, you know, I think it's the second year Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's. He signed one of those. It's right here. If you're on the YouTube, I'll show it to you right here. Look at this. I kept one of them. I sold the other one. Okay. I didn't keep them all because I don't need 3 of them to remember that moment. I asked Titus after each of them, do you want to keep either of this? I think he ended up keeping one of the BJ Armstrongs, and the rest he was like, I don't care, because he doesn't collect. He doesn't really care about it. And then with Bob Love, that's with his. And I also got a baseball signed by his. I kept it because that was a cool experience having a basketball player sign a baseball. And so I was like, that's a cool story and a memory for me. I want to keep remembering when I see it on my shelf. So I kept it. These tier 3 things, the player is paid to be there. They know they're going there and they're being paid to sign those things. I think this is much more acceptable to get it signed, authenticate, and send it, because that person is being compensated for that time. They're not donating it to you. I call this the Mercenary because they are paid to do it. That is the difference. I think this is much more acceptable to do that. Yeah, okay, sorry. I was about to bring up some book. I'll bring it up. I'm going to move back to tier 2 for a second. At those games, every now and then there's these guys I call the book boys, and they'll have a notebook with like 4 or 5 of each player's rookie cards. They'll flip to the page when that player's coming through, and that player comes by, and sometimes they'll sign them. They'll sign all 5 of them. You know they're not keeping all 5. You're taking a tier 2 moment, and you're kind of making it like, hey, you're donating your time here when you don't have to stop and sign these, when you absolutely know I'm going to sell some of these. And so I just feel like it's a little more yucky for me personally, okay? Jump back. So tier 1, untouchables, okay? Tier 2, we got the pro bono, and tier 3, the Mercenary. Let's talk tier 4 and the ones that I feel like is the most acceptable to turn around, sell, get rid of, flip, whatever. This is called the buy it nows, the bins, if you will. These are items that you purchase on the secondary market without a personal interaction, without that personal story, and it's often through these third parties online, eBay, auction houses, etc. Okay? For instance, and this could be a game used item or already signed. Most of the jerseys I have signed, I've bought through eBay. I bought at shows. I bought through different people. It's not a connection with that player, okay? If you're on YouTube, you can see it. Behind me is a game used Jordan Poole jersey. I bought this Christmas of 2023 at the time, it was called PWCC. I bought it, and I went out, and I bought it Christmas Eve because I think I got a great deal because everybody's worried about like Christmas stuff. Purchased it. It had been game used when JP had played against, he was on the Warriors playing against the Charlotte Hornets. He put up like 33 points, I think, 33 points. Had a great game, and I bought it legitimate from everything I could tell from that game. It was like NBA certificate of authenticity. Somebody else had bought it in an auction. They left their price in it, and they bought it at the peak. I got a really good discount on it from that. And so I brought that to the game where the Wizards were playing the Grizzlies. And Finn and I are sitting there waiting, and you know, we're wearing JP jersey. He's wearing the Michigan college jersey. I'm wearing the Wizards jersey, and we're like the only ones over there. It wasn't a huge chunk of people waiting. And then finally, JP gets done warming up, and he comes over and he sees us, comes right over, starts signing Finn's basketball. And I had that jersey because I wanted to get it signed. It's a tier 4 item. I bought it on auction house. JP didn't give it to me, anything like that. We start chatting. He's like, "Where y'all from?" I say, "Arkansas." And as soon as he hears my terrible Southern accent, he's like, "Man, I see your videos all the time." And I posted this short because we recorded it. Posted this short on there. He recognizes from videos on social media, which is like one of the coolest experiences you can have where it's like this athlete that we, like started really following and collecting right when he came into the league. And we just continued to collect him. I like his attitude. I like the way he handles stuff, situations. Just seems like a great all around person. And also, I love watching him play basketball. So it's like, it's been somebody I've been collecting. The fact that he had seen that, communicated that, was super encouraging and kind to us about it. And then he signed a tier 4 jersey for me in person. This tier 4 jersey moved up to a tier 2. And for me personally, it's tier 1. I'll never sell this jersey. Pending him cussing at me publicly, I will never sell this jersey. He signed the front of it. It has now moved from a Game Use article I bought on an auction to something I have a story and even have a video of that story. And that means something to me. And I think that it goes into the level where it's like, as somebody who collects and who considers himself a collector much more than a moneymaker on this, because really I just make money to try to buy more collectibles, I feel like once it falls into that category, as somebody who loves to collect, I don't feel like I would do a service to myself, the player, or just my, contrived standard of collecting to where I feel like it would be okay to go out and sell it. All right. So, I mean, it's like buying a Harry Potter wand from a store that's mass produced would be a tier 4. Like, I'm just going out and buying it. No, and now some people will buy into a bigger story. Like, I'm buying, an MJ Game Used All-Star jersey. Like, that has a story in itself, and you're purchasing it. It's still tier 4 to you. If you sell it, nobody's going to look down on you. Like, you bought it and you're selling it. Like, nobody would look down on the flip of that, as opposed to them handing it to you, MJ handing it to you after the game saying, hey, thanks for coming. Here's a jersey. Like, that moves it up to tier 1, in my opinion. They all have value, but one has a deeper story. Okay. So, my opinion, the Wemby jersey swap, that's a tier 1. You've taken away something that was a really cool story, not just for your kid, but for the world, and, became this viral moment. You're taking it away from your kid having that memory in their room the rest of their life. I personally wouldn't do it, pending an emergency with my family or finances, but to each their own. Everybody can do whatever they want. I'm not their boss. They can sell it, and we can have our own thoughts and opinions on it. I would love to know in the comments, tell me what you think, what tier you think that falls into. Am I missing any tiers? And even better, what is like your favorite item that you have in your collection, and what tier does that fall into? Is it an untouchable? That's tier 1 untouchable? Is it tier 2 pro bono, tier 3 mercenary, or tier 4 buy it now? Let me know in the comments, because I would love to know, because I value your opinion and I think you're great. Stay good, stay sweet if you want to. Stay good, stay sweet, like I'm signing your yearbook. Go ahead if you want. It really helps. It's a new podcast. If you rate this, give your opinion, even if you don't fully believe it yet. We're going to get better. This is the worst we'll ever be. I want to have more people on. It's just trying to fit it around my schedule, because a lot of people, when I record, it's like late at night. I'm like, hey, do you want to donate an hour of your time when you're supposed to be hanging out with your family, talk about sports cards? Because wives love that. So I'm going to start having more people on. I'm going to start reaching out to people. So let me know what you think. Anything you want us to talk about, go to sportscardsaredope.com. You can submit at the bottom. It's got like a little place where you can submit things we talk about, or submit your story. Maybe we'll read it and talk about it and discuss it, just like we're talking about this story. I want to do more of these where it's like talking about current events, even though I'm like a week behind on this. Current events, things that are happening. And so appreciate you guys. I don't know where I'm going to pull the screenshot from that I tossed in earlier for the video, but some people see it as like you're not crediting them if I pop their screenshot up. I'm going to have their name on the screenshot, so that's their credit, okay? If I have to say it out loud verbally, I'm sorry, I don't have the screenshot yet. So credit to whichever website or social media I pull the picture of Victor and the jersey swap from. And thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate you. Have fun. Like, subscribe. But most importantly, be kind and never stop collecting. Be good. Later.